Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the North East Non-League Show, episode 22, the final hurdle, which is the Northern League special, sponsored by Beer Watch TV, Sunderland West End, Durham City FC, Jade Bell, and of course, proud to support If You Care Share Foundation. Join us tonight. We have Dan Bell and Luke Duden. Lads, thank you very much for coming on tonight.
No problem. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, really.
Yeah, I think just been talking throughout, obviously this week and last week, about kind of what we're going to be chatting about tonight, and I know I was kind of getting excited just putting these notes down, and we kind of looked back 2 weeks and people said it was over, and some people said it was a two-horse race, and then 2 weekends later, everyone seems to be back in it again. It's just absolutely crazy, isn't it? In both divisions as well. Dan, just for yourself, how exciting is it to watch on as a neutral? I know you like your ground hopping. How good is it to watch it on?
Oh, it's been tremendous this year. I think everyone last weekend had that Ashington versus Newton Aycliffe game down as a bit of a title decider almost, but lo and behold, this week's come about. Ashington have slipped to a defeat away at Wickham, which granted is a tough game, but again, a game which I think most people would have probably expected them to get some sort of result out. And as it's happened, Bishops are now the ones in second place. I mean, yes, they've played a game more, but for me, I sort of prefer to look at who's got what points on the board and who's got like the games in hand. So it's exciting. Then, of course, you've still got Whitley Bay still in with a bit of an outside chance. But if any of the three above them slip up, then we probably need all three of them to slip up. But if that happens and they can get some results together, and all of a sudden they could be back into it. So it's really exciting to watch at the minute, and it's a pretty close one to call.
It is definitely. And Luke, yourself, I know it's a bit more hard for yourself, obviously being from the Ashington area. You just seem to always pick up the right performances, get that win in, and then it's like a shock defeat or a shock draw. How's it been watching on?
Well, it's been like that all season. I mean, we had the really good start, just wins, and then obviously you sort of dip at the wrong moment. But I think we can get, like, there's still 5 games left, and we've got an experienced squad, and as we've shown throughout the season, we can do well later on in games, and I think that'll do us well later in the season. Like, we're a battling squad, and I think it's still there. Obviously, there's tough fixtures coming up against Whitley Bay, against Bishop Auckland. It's not an easy run in, but I don't think that there's a particular, like, more nerves in the row for the other teams around there.
Yeah, it's going to be very tight. Craig's mentioned it, even lads. Yeah, okay. Come on the heat, Dan. Yeah, 90 minutes away from Wembley. Massive game Saturday, isn't it, for you?
Yeah, really big game. Fingers crossed we can actually do it, but then again, obviously we're down to the bare bones a little bit in that one, but I'm sure the lads that can play will give it everything they've got. The home crowd will be well up for it, so you never know. Strange things have happened.
I'd say the hope the North East, like you say, just get down and get behind the lads. Like you say, Newcastle's home Sunday. I think Sunderland's playing Saturday, Friday night. Get down and support the lads. Pack the ground out. I say, like, get to Wembley, definitely. And looking over, like you say, the 4 teams are challenging at the top, and just going over the last few games. Newton Claycliffe's now played 23 games on 73 points. Last 4 unbeaten. Beat Ashton 4-1, 3-0 against Crook, and the draw against Ashton as well. Bishop played 34 and sitting on 71 points. The win against Formby, lost 2-0 against Wickham, and won 5-1 against RCA. Ashton on 33, played 33, points 70, beat Redcar 3-0, drew against Newton Aycliffe, and lost 3-2 against Wickham. Seems to be everyone that's Wickham beating at the minute on a great run. And Whitley Bay played 23, 68 points, drew 0-0 against Gisborough, the 3-1 win against Towlaw, and won 2-0 against RCA as well. Just looking over them last few games, Dan, starting with yourself, going back to the Aycliffe win, 4-1 against Ashton. After that game, like you said, people said that was the league done. What was your thoughts on that game? And, I mean, how did you see the Harmison red card? I know, quite luckily, they record the games for the YouTube and it got overturned, but big decisions in that game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely was. I mean, I never thought that game was going to be a decide. So they'd had to play each other again, which they did at the weekend. The game finished as a draw, but I think I think you often find in just about any league, like just about every game that's built as a title decider often
Yeah.
doesn't end up being as decisive as people make it out to be. And there's still a few games left, and there's still and all the games are going to be tough for all the teams involved for whatever reason. Like I believe Ashington are playing Pickering this weekend, and obviously Pickering are down at the bottom of the league, need every point they can get them in it, beat them at Mill Lane, which is just what we're on about with Ashington. They can just go on these winning runs, and all of a sudden they'll get a bit of a crashing result like that. I believe Newton Aycliffe have got to play Northallerton at some point again, a team that are down there and struggling at the minute. Of course, you got games such as Ashington versus Whitley Bay, Ashington versus Bishop Auckland. So it's like there is a lot of football left to play, and there isn't a lot of football left to play. It's really that way at the minute. But yeah, for me as a neutral, it's really exciting. I mean, personally, I do fancy Aycliffe to go on and win the league. Like I've seen all 4 teams at least once a season. I've seen Bishops twice, but think of the 4, just Aycliffe just seem to have that bit of extra something about them. Obviously, managed to grind something out at Ashington at the weekend. I saw them in January away at Gisborne. They were 2-1 down with like 25 minutes left. Were making mistakes left, right, and centre in the second half, but then they managed to pull 2 goals out of the bag and got the win when that game was looking like at best they'd only really managed a draw. So that's probably why I'm going to have to go for them. Bishops, I think maybe second half of the season there's been a bit of a consistency issue. Like you look at some of their results, obviously lost the dropped points in quite a lot of games, which you'd probably looked at and think they really shouldn't be dropping points. Away at Pickering, for example, I think Redcar Athletic beating them. I mean, obviously granted, Redcar Athletic are looking to finish the season as strongly as they possibly can. They've had some very good results throughout the season, but still, if you're going for league titles, you'd want to at least leave a game against a team that are maybe sort of mid-table bound with at least a point on the board. So it's tough to call. There is going to be more twists yet. I don't think any of the teams are going to win all of the remaining games. So it's going to be interesting to see how it finishes for sure.
No, it's going to be absolutely brilliant. And Luke, yourself, just touching on Bishop Auckland, we kind of said the same about Ashton, that they win a couple of games and start to look promising. You kind of, they close gaps. And then they have that random loss every now and again, which just seems to have happened not just now, it's happened all throughout the season. Obviously, the game with the 2 red cards as well. The regular 2-1 loss, and again, obviously, the 2-0 little loss against Wickham as well, which is, yes, they've played an extra game, they're back in the second place, but is that going to cost them going for the title? I mean, what's your thoughts on Bishop the last few weeks?
Well, Bishop in the last few weeks have generally been good when you look aside from the Wickham game, but it's just in the sort of run into this season, you need to be winning every single game if you want to be pushing Newton Aycliffe, who at one point sort of ran away with it a little bit. They didn't quite have a hand on the trophy, but they were certainly putting distance between the chasing path. And that Wickham game, I don't think that they'll feel like they should have won the league, Bishop Auckland, but if it comes to it and they're 2 points off on the last day of the season, they might feel like that was a missed opportunity. But I don't think that's to discredit Wickham, like we've been saying. I mean, since I lost to Bishop Auckland in February, they've went on a 6-game unbeaten run before they lost to Carlisle. So they were a team in form when they played Bishop, and obviously when they played Ashton as well, sadly. But they might have a massive say in this title race.
Definitely. See, I've just been speaking to the manager at night as well. He said like the last few performances have been absolutely fantastic, and I just think, and it's me personally, myself, and I played as well. You come to the end of the season, a lot of people say if you've got nothing to play for, you don't put as much effort in. But there was nothing better than the way it sounds bad, but I used to love kind of stopping teams winning cups or winning promotions, and you just get a bit of a buzz out, even though you couldn't play for nothing yourself. You still lifted your game because you think these players are going for promotion, they want to go for the title. Let's see if we can put something above it. And I think that's what some players do look at as well, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got to like upset this, don't you? I mean, looking at the Bishop Auckland, the fixtures that they've got left as well. Obviously, you've got Heaton and Ashton at home, two massive games. But then the away games, like you say, you've got Carlisle away and Penrith, two big travels. It's some journeys, and sometimes that does make a difference in these games, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, Carlisle away is not a fun one. Now that's Penrith at the minute with how they've been playing, but Heatonstown, they've been a bit of a surprise factor this season throughout the entire campaign. I mean, they beat Ashton, they beat Aycliffe. They're one of the couple of teams outside the top 3 or 4 that have beaten Newton Aycliffe as well. So that's one to watch. I think Heatonstown the Bishops.
Yeah, it will be. And Dan, yourself getting to Whitley Bay now, and I know last time me and Luke did the show, I kept saying Whitley Bay was still going to be my dark horse, and then I thought, I think it was a couple of weeks after the show, they were miles off, and I thought, oh, I can't believe I've said that, but looking at them now unbeaten in 4, now 5 points off the top, is it still possible, or do you think that second place playoff is now their aim for the rest of the season?
I think second place playoff is probably the most realistic thing that they could go for at this moment in time. I mean, the thing is for Whitley Bay, they've got to play. They've obviously still got to play Ashington, and I think the fact that that game is at Hillhead is could really be something that works in their favour. Like you'd think for that sort of game is something that the people of Whitley Bay really get behind. Like imagine it'd be a pretty decent crowd that day. Obviously, you might because I've noticed that game's an early kickoff, so you might get like 1 or 2 ground hoppers that are maybe going on to Blythe against Darlow, Gateshead against Scunthorpe or something like that. So I expect a really good turnout of that game, and if Whitley Bay can obviously get some points on the board in the 2 games before that, obviously neither of them's going to be easy. Obviously, this Saturday up against Northallerton, a team that really slipping towards into a relegation battle. So they need every point they can get, and they're obviously better away from home than what they are at the Calvert Stadium. Then in the week, obviously a trip to Wickham, as was just touched upon, a very tough game. Bishops have just come unstuck there, so Ashington, can Wickham pull off a hat-trick of promotion chasing scalps? It's going to be very interesting to see. Then, of course, after that, the last 2 games at home to Heaton Stallington, again, not an easy game. Then, obviously, finishing the season away to Thornaby, who could be needing the points to just stay up on the last day of the season. So it's not an easy running for them at all. But if they can keep up the sort of decent form of late, then you never know. That's the thing. If one of the teams above them has a bad result, then all of a sudden they're right back in it.
Yeah, definitely. And Luke with Ashton as well. I mean, again, Tuesday night, great chance to go top and close up with 3-2 against Wickham. Do you think that the pressure's getting them? Obviously, now that they've always been kind of, because they've had to catch up with games because the FA Cup run, they always seem to be that many games behind. And people just expect, when they play these 7 games, they're going to have X amount of points on the board. But you've got to go out and play them games. It's hard. Do you think it's a bit of a pressure, or do you think it's just like other players up on the level like game, like we said before?
I think it's. I don't think it's a case of the pressure getting them. I just think you're going to have good days and bad days in the office. I think you've seen with this squad throughout the season that they'll battle till the end, and if it's a case of we've won our fair share of games in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah,
we're going to lose one later on eventually, but I like really experienced lads who played in steps above National League North and Northern Premier League. I don't think the pressure will get at them because of the experience within the squad. So I expect them to push on. It's just a case of getting that bounce back on Saturday. I know obviously we lost, as Dan said before, when we went down to North Yorkshire, but you've got to look at that as an opportunity to rebuild momentum.
And hopefully, like you say, looking at the fixtures that we've got left, they've got the Pickering at home, Thornby at home, and then 3 away games against Whitley Bay, Towler and Bishop. And you kind of think if they do go out and win all them games, especially when they've still got Whitley Bay and Bishop to play, they deserve to win the league. And you look at Newton Aycliffe, obviously they've got RCA at home, Wesley Lockman at home, where you think, they should be picking up the points against them, picking up the wins. But then again, you look at the 3 away games. We just talked about travel in the Northern League. They've got Carlisle, Northallerton, Penrith. Probably the 3 first away games that you can imagine, and it sometimes does play a factor, but it's going to be really close as they come the end of the season, Luke.
Yeah, well, I think Newton Aycliffe home and away have been spot on because they've got a few far travels up north as well. But You're asking about pressure. I don't think it's. I think there's been pressure on every single team, sort of, that we've talked about all season, because no one's ever pulled away, like we were saying before. There's not been like a reprieve. It's been guns blazing all season. So I think it might be a case of maybe tired legs at this point, because obviously Arsenal have to play the catch-up matches. But I expect them to still push on though.
Excellent. And just going over both questions for yourself, starting with yourself, Dan. If you can pick a team, who's going to win the league and who will finish second in that playoff spot?
I'm gonna have to go with Newton Aycliffe to win the league, and I do still fancy Ashington to finish second, but then win the playoff. I think they'll have. I think that there's enough in that squad to beat whoever's sort of towards the bottom of the Step 4 league.
Yeah, and yourself, Luke?
Well, I mean, I've also got Newton Aycliffe to win the league, but I'll say Whitley Bay to finish second, because I think it all comes down to two key fixtures for Ashington. Obviously, the game at Hillheads and the game down at Bishop Auckland. If you win both those games, you can go on to win the league. But if you lose them both, you could be down in fourth. So I was going to go with Whitley Bay as an outside shot.
Yeah, well, like I say, I've always I don't know why Whitley Bay. I always loved the underdog, but I went for Newton Aycliffe, obviously winning the league now with the fixtures. Kind of when I was working out the other day, kind of points and totals. But I don't know why I'm the same as yourself. I just went for the underdog Whitley Bay with that playoff spot. Either one of those teams that'll finish second, though, I still think that it doesn't matter who they play from the division above. The squads in the Northern League, at that end of the table, can beat any team above them in that other division in that league, can't they?
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit up in the air at the moment, isn't it, with what's going on at North Shields? But we'll have to just wait and see even how many teams are in the NPL East next season.
Definitely. And getting on to the Division 1 relegation now as well. Like you say, it's just kind of seeing what's going on, because I was down watching Chelsea Street last week, and even talking to the people that's running the club, and they just said, we don't know how many's going up, we don't know how many's coming down, what's going to happen with the playoffs. And you're thinking, it's 4 weeks until almost the season ends. Surely the clubs have got to know what's going on, and people, especially sitting at the bottom half of Division 2, which we'll touch on soon, and people are saying one's going down, two's going down, three might go down, depending who's coming from the wayside. You can't be doing this to clubs so close to the end of the season, can you?
No, I mean, there's been no clarity whatsoever from any club. I think the FA released a statement a little bit early, because I hadn't even contacted the Northern League when they made that statement a couple of weeks ago. So I think it's all up in the air. I literally haven't got a clue what's happening, to be honest with
you. Yeah. Have you heard much, Dan? What's happening with the relegation promotions?
Not really. No. I mean, I've just been sort of basing it off. If there's two coming up from Division 2, obviously the champions and the playoff winners, and surely that'd mean two down from Division 1. But it's not always that straightforward. But again, it's a really interesting relegation battle. I mean, for me personally, obviously I used to live near Pickering. I get on quite well with people at Thornaby. Get on quite well with people at Northallerton. With the people at Penrith, so it's not a nice relegation battle for me personally at all, because it's like saying which of your dogs do you want to get rid of, you know what I mean? It's not nice at all, but at the same time it's keeping my interest in the division going. Obviously I don't really have a specific team that I'd say I actively support, but obviously there is obviously those that I will sort of maybe keep quite a close eye out for, and unfortunately this year they all just seem to be in a relegation battle together.
No, hopefully, like we say, we hear some news over the last, because I would hate to see teams finish and say third bottom and thinking they're staying up, and 2 or 3 weeks after the season finishing, there's 3 going to get relegated, or someone in Division 2 finishes third or fourth and they miss out on the playoffs, and they said, we're going to put another team up. You want to win a game or finish a game and then celebrate. It's totally different 3 weeks after. You kind of celebrate. I know we talked to John last week when they said Rec went up, obviously during COVID, and they couldn't celebrate, and they think, we might have a party this season just because we missed out on one. You got to be in the moment, don't you? It's different 2 or 3 weeks after a game finishes. Really hard. But yeah, getting on to the Division 1 relegation as well. I mean, lots of people now watching as well. If you got any thoughts on the promotions, relegations, who's going to win the league, get them in as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button as well. Looking at Division 1, the relegation, Sunderland RCA sitting 15th at the moment on 34 points. But for me, I would kind of say that is almost safe now. I think between 16 and 25 points in danger for myself. Looking at it, going from 16 Penrith, who's played 31 games and on 31 points, Seeing Red Star played 34 games, a lot more than some, on 30 points. Northampton played 33 and sitting on 30 points. And 19 Thornaby played 33, sitting on 28 points. And 20th Pickering Town on 32 games and played 26 points. Looking at that relegation battle, Luke, starting with yourself, the two teams in Northallerton and Thornaby both had -3 points for playing eligible players. And looking at now, they probably thought when they did get that, it doesn't going to affect us, but it could actually cost them this season now, couldn't it?
I know. I mean, it could be massive for them going forwards, because if they didn't have that deduction there, neither of them would be in the bottom two. And then everything looks completely different. You've got less anxieties going around, but I think Northallerton in particular have a really hard run in towards the end of the season. They have a few tough games coming up, but they've done all right in tough games in September at the start of the season. I remember they drew away at Newton Aycliffe and Bishop Auckland, so they can turn up when it gets tough, but it's not really what you want when you're in a relegation battle.
Definitely. I think, like you say, 1 win in 5, but then you've got 5 games left. But you look at 4 of them against Gisborne, Whitley Bay, Newton Aycliffe, and as well, and it's just not going to get easy for them. It's a tough time. Do you think they can pull themselves out of that, or do you think teams below them, obviously Thornaby won the last 2 games now as well? Again, you've got RCA playing on Saturday, but then again, Redfern, Ashton again, and Whitley Bay. They all seem to have the top sides. One of them's got at least 2 of them going into it. It's going to be tough times for them both, isn't it?
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, I think I expect the team to get another win before the end of the season. I can't remember the fixtures exactly, but they played Pickering, don't they, before the end of the season?
Yeah, Tower Penrith as well.
And Tower is at home, isn't it? So I don't even know what's happening with Tower because I don't know how they're going to play 8 games in 3 weeks, but we'll have to just wait and see what happens there. But I think Thornby, realistically, they probably need 5 points or 6 points to ensure safety, and I think that might be a stretch too far, but if they beat RC on the weekend, then the table looks completely different.
Definitely. And Dan, you look at the teams between 16th and 20th, the teams that we just mentioned there, and apart from Thornby, who's won the last 2, they've all literally won 1 game in the last 5, or pretty much lost the last 4 games and stuff like that. And you kind of think, looking at them teams down there, you've got to have a bit of run of form. Hopefully now Thornby, who's won the last 2 games, but why is it so hard when you're at the bottom of that table? Yes, obviously you know the budget at the top of the half of the table and the teams that are playing, but you kind of buy when you're down there, can you?
It's been a tough season for all of them. Although I've got to say, whenever I was sort of seeing any of them this season, they've not none of them have been that bad. I mean, take Northallerton for example. I saw them a few times, especially in the first half of the season. I saw them away at Thornaby on a Friday night. They were deserved winners in that game. Then saw them at Gisborne on Boxing Day. I mean, they were 2-0 up at half time, and granted, they were pegged back in that game and had to settle for a point. But I left that game on Boxing Day and I thought they'll be nowhere near the relegation zone. But then, of course, I think it's when they got the points deduction, I think that really took the wind out of their sails a little bit, and that's when they really started to drop off. Because I thought even with that points deduction, I was still sort of convinced I'd seen enough from them for them to be relatively safe, but they've just really struggled since then. Obviously, Thornaby's was very early on in the season, so I'm not I don't know what effect that's really had on them mentally, but of course they've picked up back-to-back wins almost out of nowhere. I mean, obviously, they're beating Northallerton away last Friday night. It was a massive result for them. Then on Tuesday night, they went and beat Crook 1-0. Again, a game that I don't think many people were expecting them to win, but they did. Then, of course, you got Pickering at the bottom of the league. I saw them last Wednesday. I mean, the overall performance wasn't like a disaster or anything like that, but 1-0 down at half time, then all of a sudden by 56 minutes it's 4-0. It just shows where the problem is for Pickering. Like, you look at, they've conceded 88 goals and a goal difference is minus 53. If they're going to stay up, it's certainly not going to be on goal difference, and that's a problem. Because that's the thing with Pickering, when the floodgates open, they really do open, and I think that's been the issue for them all year. But as they showed against Ashington, against Bishops, they always do have the odd result in them, and if they can maybe like just pull another one or two of those off, it might just sort of be enough for them. I think obviously they've got to play Northallerton before the end of the season. They've got to play Seaham before the end of the season. RCA, obviously teams that are struggling and dropping a lot of points just now. So you never know. Then on the last day of the season, at home to West Auckland, who at this point have nothing to play for. So so you never know. Pickering might still do it, but as I said, it doesn't look good for them, especially like if you're conceding that many goals, then it maybe just tells its own story, unfortunately.
Definitely. Just like the top of the league, though, they've all got, I think there's at least got to play each other once or twice in the fixtures that's left. I mean, a big game starting on Saturday, that's just the Penrith Seaham game. I think whoever wins that will get it. Obviously, the 3 points go up a little bit, and that one win, or could be a draw, but whoever wins that game, possibly, that could be them out of the relegation scrap straight away. It's a crazy weekend. And just going back to yourself, Luke, and then to Dan afterwards, just going down from the list that we just mentioned there, personally, I've gone for Pickering. I think they're just a bit of a drift now, and I'm going for Northallerton just because the fall will be after them 2 wins that might push them on a bit. Who would be your 2 teams to go down from Division 1?
I think for me it's Pickering and Thornaby. I just think with the fixtures Thornaby have got left, I just can't see them outpointing Northallerton Town. But I don't think Seam's completely safe either.
Yeah. And yourself, Dan?
I mean, sadly, I'm going to have to say Pickering. I mean, I genuinely do sort of feel a bit for them because they came down from the Northern Premier East Division. I think they were kind of hoping they'd be put in the Northern Counties East League because, I mean, no disrespect to it, but it is a weaker league and that's what they're always in before they went up to Step 4. I mean, before they sort of did start challenging for promotion under Paul Marshall, like they never really sort of pulled up any trees, but they're always competitive. Like, and I just think this year, like the travel costs and stuff like that, I just think it's really taken it out of them. And after that, I think I am going to have to say Thornaby because I mean, obviously they've had these 2 wins in a row, and if they can get out of it, then you've got to take your hats off to them because that is an absolutely fantastic escape. When I think this time last week, I think a lot of people are thinking we're pretty much ruling them out. I think they thought they were gone, but I just think, as I said, with some of the games they've got left, it might just be a bit too much of a tall order for them, unfortunately.
Definitely. And getting on to Division 2 now, and it just gets better. As I see, I was so excited writing the plans out for the show, and what a way to start on Saturday, the title race, Division 2, Borough Rangers or Horden, and again, they both play each other on Saturday. And again, a lot of people say the winner takes it all, but then you're looking at the fixtures, they've got to play each other in the last game of the season, and it could go down, that game could go down to goal difference. Honestly, the way it's going, it's absolutely fantastic. But just looking at both the teams that we have there, obviously, Borough played 34, sitting on the 78 points, lost the last 5 games, won 4 and drawn 1, but they've got that game in hand. Obviously 6 games left, but you expect them to beat the likes of Newcastle, Uni, Jarrah, Brandon. But then obviously they've got Chelsea Street, United, which I've been watching the last couple of weeks, so it will be a tough game down the hub, playing some fantastic football down there at the moment. And obviously Horden, the last game of the season. You then got Horden sitting in second, played 35 on 78 points. Same again, last 5, won 4, drawn 1, but 5 left apart from 2 against Borough. It's 3 home games against Willerton, Blythe and Newcastle Uni as well. Looking at it, when I was trying to do sums of how many people get points, I think I literally almost got equal points, and I think it could actually go down to goal difference, which would be absolutely crazy. But just start with yourself, Dan. What's your thoughts on the Division 2 title race?
It's I think at one point everyone thought the Borough Rangers were going to run away with it. I mean, they've only lost 2 games all season, which at this level of football is absolutely unbelievable, really. But their issues being, especially in the second half of the season, they've just had too many draws. Like they've had a lot of nil-nils at home, I've noticed, and things like that. It's just invited Horden to just slowly but surely creep up the table a little bit and make it into a proper title race. I think this game coming up at the weekend, I think if that game was a draw, obviously I think that would probably suit Borough Rangers that bit better. But like it's going to be one of those. Like I think at the most it might go down to the second last game or something like that. I'm not sure, but as I say, I'm just looking at Borough Rangers' fixtures now, where like there's sort of no easy ones. And obviously the Chester Street United, that's not going to be easy. Brandon, like they've maybe surprised a few of the season, so that's not going to be easy. And of course, last game of the season, Borough Rangers versus Horden. By the same token, you look at Horden. After Borough Rangers are obviously hosting Willington, which is a game you'd expect them to win probably quite comfortably. It's just not been a good year for Willington at all. The points deduction on multiple occasions are currently sitting only on 3 points and have been hit 5, 6, maybe even 8 or 9. I think Chester Street United put 10 past them, didn't they?
Tough times, yeah.
So you'd expect them to get something out of that, but then after that it's Blythe Town. Not an easy game, still in with an outside chance of getting in the playoffs. So that could be a bit of a banana skin for them. Newcastle Uni. Again, like this time of year, you don't really know what you're going to get with university teams. Because
it's strange, isn't it? Yeah.
Obviously, they're playing in their university leagues and what have you. So it all comes down to what they're sort of prioritising, really. Of course, on the last day, the away at Borough Rangers, which it could be self-explanatory, that could literally be the definition of a title / promotion decider.
That would be amazing. And I think, Luke, last time we were on here, I think for sure Borough Rangers must be about, I'd say, double figures ahead. But we both said between now and the end of the season, I think Horden will start gradually catching up, and it's exactly what's happened. We both said we hope it did happen because we both mentioned our love for Horden as well, and great little club down there. I mean, what's your thoughts on the last few weeks and Horden catching up?
Well, I'm not going to get too much on the Horden loving this time because I think Johnny might tell me off for putting the pressure on. But they're doing great things up there. They play some really good football, and they try to win every single game. And I mean, it's so entertaining to watch. I think. I mean, obviously, it comes down to 2 key games, doesn't it? Really, if Borough Rangers go out and win their 3 games and Horden win their 2 games, but they play each other, it's whoever sort of comes out on top in that little battle there. So I think both teams deserve to go up, but I just think it'll be a really, really good day for the neutral. And I think it's just annoying that the last day of the season for the first and second division falls on the same day because you've got Ashton versus Bishops, and then you've got Borough Rangers versus Horden. It's like both could be. Well, at one point it seemed like Ashton and Bishops might have been the title decider, and now it's Horden v Borough Rangers. So it's just where to go because there's going to be so much good football.
We'll like a split screen on the YouTube, won't we? Like one of you at one ground, one at the other ground. Sell tickets. But like you say, that the manager down there, he's doing a cracking job. I know we put the post in today. We're going to do some little end of season award stuff and that, and his name's been mentioned so many times today. Just obviously the VAR's run as well, and what he's taken the club from. Obviously the way the club just kind of went from the area, which was huge for the area of Horden when the club came back, and it's a really community club there now. I know they do the weekly draws and stuff. People actually do direct debit payments to the club, and it's just so friendly as well. It would be nice to see Horden get promoted, wouldn't it?
Definitely. I mean, I don't know how the stadium would manage in the Northern League, but I think it'll be fine for step 5. But it's just so good with having a young core of players, and obviously Bowsy is a great captain as well. So I'd love to see them up there. Like as much as I want Ashton to go up, I think Ashton v Horden's a bit of a heart between head.
And touching on the Division 2 playoffs as well, and like I say, obviously one of those teams is going to miss out and drop into the playoffs. So looking at the table now, you've got Berkeley in 3rd place, Bilton in 4th place, and Billingham in 5th. And it looks like it is going to be them 3 teams plus one of the teams that drop out, and all cracking sides. I know we had Bryce on a few weeks ago, and he's obviously talked about the Berkeley and how good the lads are doing. And yes, the big Bilton last night, I think Rutledge scored 6 of them goals, and you've got a striker on form like that who's just scoring goals for fun. You've got the experience of like Alex Francis there, and the management as well, Bryson, on it to see what a cracking lad he is. And you look at them playoffs, I'm kind of thinking, where could it come from? Belton playing some great football, Billingham with the squad that they've got as well. If obviously one of those teams dropping in from them top two as well, who would you say would be looking at them playoffs of going up, starting with yourself, Luke?
I think Berkeley's probably sniffing, especially with the form they've been in recent weeks.
Yeah, and yourself, Dan?
I have to say Berkeley as well. I mean, you don't score 116 goals for nothing, and you just feel if they can really turn it on in the playoffs, and it's going to be a really dangerous prospect for obviously whoever they come up against in the semi-final and whoever they go up against in the final. But you can't rule anything out in the playoffs. I mean, obviously last year I went along to Bolden versus Tower as it was, and I think just about everyone was expecting Bolden to win that, because I think similarly to Berkeley, like they'd just scored goals for fun all season. I think they were pretty much red hot favourites, but then it just didn't happen for them on the night, and Tower put in a very good performance and got the game won. But by the same token, like for all we know, the Billingham Tower might do that. They might sort of really come into form towards the end of the season to carry that momentum. I think with playoffs, a lot of it is down to who's sort of carrying the most form and momentum going into them, more so than where you actually finish in the league table. Like you look at the National League North playoffs last season, for example, like York were the ones that, like, they only finished fifth, but they were the ones that were carrying the momentum into them. Whereas Brackley, who finished second, had the sort of wind knocked out of their sails back end of the season and came unstuck. Same with AFC Fylde that finished third, Kidderminster that finished fourth. So for me, with the playoffs, it is going to sort of come down to who carries the form and momentum into them. And I think Berkeley will obviously know that. I think whoever doesn't win the league between Borough Rangers and Horn, it's going to be a huge psychological blow that could carry over into the playoffs. I mean, granted, it didn't last year with Heat and Southampton losing out on the last day's Carlisle City. They obviously got their playoffs won, but just think the way it is now, where it's like it's going to be tough for whoever doesn't win the league between the top two to recover in such a short space of time, and I do worry a bit for whoever that team happens to be.
Yeah, and who would you go for then out of the two to win the league?
I'm still gonna have to go with Borough Rangers, because I think ultimately they know how to not lose. Like, they know how to grind at least some kind of result out, even if it's not pretty the way to do it.
Yeah, and yourself, Luke?
I'm just gonna have to go with Horn. I think if they can get a big win in the bag on Saturday, momentum builds, and then see where they go from there. But yeah, I mean, that maybe I'm thinking a little bit ahead, but that'd be nice.
No, definitely looking forward to that one Saturday. I can't wait for that one. It'll be a great game. Getting on to Division 2 relegation, again, we can't really say too much, because I know, like I say, speaking to the Chelsea Street lad on Jason last week, and he kind of said he heard from one team it's going to be one going down, he heard from another team it's going to be two, and stuff like that. But you just don't know how many teams, if depending who's going to go, if two go from there, and stuff like that. It's crazy. Like you said, so close. Obviously, looking at the teams now, obviously you've got Wilton sitting on 21st. It's been pretty much down all season. It's been a really tough season for them. But hats off to them, because you'll see teams that's down there and the lads can kind of plug away, and it gets to halfway through the season, people stop turning up, and then the point deduction, and they think, are we going to fall? Are we going to do this? But they've just kept going all season. I know Bertie put something on last night to say they never let the heads drop as well. So hats off to Wilton. Hopefully they can have a big summer and hopefully pick some things up over there this summer as well and get back to some winning ways. But looking at the other three teams who's just above that, and they must be looking nervous now, or waiting for emails to come through from the FA to see what's going on. And you look at the positions that you've got 18th Brighton, played 36 on 34 points. Sun West End on 19th, played 36 and on 32 points. And Washington played 33 and sitting on 24 points. Just looking at them three teams, and obviously, yes, one might only go down, but if it ends up being two or three, and them teams looking over the shoulder, just starting with yourself, Luke, what's your kind of thoughts on them other three teams down there, and who possibly could go down out with them?
Well, I mean, who could possibly go down is anyone's guess, I guess. But I think if it's a bottom two, I think Sunderland West End might be a little bit too far gone from Washington. But
Mhm.
with the games in hand, you just never know. Uh, I mean, obviously West End's form's dropped a little bit in recent weeks, and they've got some hard games coming up. I can't see them putting up a great amount of points, but they've got a good motivational set of managers there in the pair of Steves,
Yeah, definitely.
and I just hope that's enough to get them over the line. But then if it's a bottom three, you just don't know if it's that. I don't really agree with the way the FA has gone about it this season in
Definitely not.
particular, because it's you got the fans, the players, like communities just don't even know what's happening with their clubs next season. And we're coming up to 3 weeks now that the season's over, and we're none the wiser. I think that's a little bit disgraceful, to be honest. But I think the bottom three will probably stay as it is in whatever order. Maybe Washington catch up, but I think Brighton and Crook are just gonna have enough to get over the line.
Yeah, look, I mean, look at the rating game. I think they might get it. Might make a point against Bolton. You look at West End, and like you see the four tough games: Berkeley, Easton, Billingham, and Redcar. And then Washington, obviously, I would say out of the 7 games that they've got left, they need to at least win 3 games, and they haven't been winning games all season. I can't see them picking up 3 wins between now in the end of the season. But I know just speaking to Dave, the son of West End, who helps down there as well, and he's kind of said exactly the same thing. Obviously, after dropping the performances, we could actually go down here if there's 3. And like you say, when they shouldn't be going around thinking if it's going to be this, if it's going to be 1, if it's going to be 2, and it's just not right for clubs, is it?
Nah, well, I mean, I suppose they've got some sort of benefit of finishing the season a day earlier than everyone else, because obviously they play on Friday, whereas
Yeah,
everyone else plays on Saturday. So if that's more pressure or less pressure, we'll have to wait and see. But everyone can get down to the quarry on the Friday, because there's nothing else on, I don't think.
yeah, definitely. And just your thoughts on down the bottom there, Dan?
Yeah, well, I think one thing the FA do need to rectify for next season is the fact that in Division 2, it's an odd number of teams. I just think I think it always needs to be an even number, because like you think about it, I just think it's just for fairness more than anything, because like for all we know, one year you could have a situation where you have a promotion battle or a relegation battle, where one of the teams finishes their season the week before, then they're basically playing a waiting game for a week to see if they're going to
Exactly. Yeah.
achieve the target or not. So I think whether the FA wants to drop the Northern League down to 20 teams or extend it to 22, I just think one way or the other it has to be an even number. So, and I hope the FA are considering that. I mean, and that may have a bit of a bearing on relegation. I mean, a lot of it just depends on teams that have applied to come up from the Wearside League, the Northern Lions, and the North Riding League. But yeah, that's just my view on it. I think, unfortunately, now it's tough to see how Willington will get any sort of reprieve from relegation. But I hope as a club they can just maybe start from scratch a little bit in the Wearside League and just get a few more wins under the belt, just get some momentum back into them as a club. It might take them a couple of years to get out of it, but if they can get themselves back on the right track as a club first and foremost, and I think that's the main thing. Then you've got Washington, who've had a bit of a frustrating year for them, really. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they've moved back into Washington, which is obviously really good for them, but obviously that ground's had a lot of teething problems. Like you look at the amount of games that have been called off, like it just feels like it just needs one splash of rain and the whole pitch is waterlogged. So it's been a frustrating year for them, but again, I think the position they're in, a lot of it is just going to depend on the FA. But I think they're maybe a bit too far behind West End now, even with the games in hand. I mean, they might pull it off. I mean, I've had obviously the odd result here, and I believe they beat West End. It was either them or Chestershire. Mm-hmm. It was one of the teams that plays at the Hub anyway. So, I mean, it's not over until the maths say so. But yeah, it's tough to see past them. I think everyone after that will be safe. I don't think the FA are going to relegate going to relegate third bottom, especially given what I've just said about the fact that there needs to be an even number of teams. I don't think all the teams that have applied for promotion are obviously going to get promoted. Like, cause obviously you still got to do it on sporting merit as well. So it's going to be an interesting summer ahead. But it'd just be unbelievably harsh if a team goes like 3 or 4 weeks thinking, yeah, the safe and planning for Northern League football next season, then the next thing you know, actually, no, you're going to be in a Wearside League next year.
Oh, it'd be crazy. And I imagine Division 2 is going to be some nervous people looking to see who's coming up, because the likes of you got Newcastle Blue Star, what they're going to be doing down there, the crowds that they're getting, they're going to come in and looking at it, possibly walk the league. But I know there'll be some challenges there, but there's going to be some big teams hopefully coming up. It's going to be an exciting. This season hasn't even finished yet, but it's going to be even more exciting next season, I bet, as well. Absolutely amazing. But Dan and Luke, just before you go, obviously, I love having you on the show and just kind of catching up on some of the stuff that you're doing at the moment. And starting with yourself, Luke, I know you've been getting some articles out there and obviously looking at the clubs in Sunderland. I know the piece on the RCA as well. What have you been doing along there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm working on a feature article which should be up tomorrow. But I'm graduating in May, so it's just basically trying to get everything in line for my degree now with my dissertation and everything. So it's a bit of an interesting time in my life. I'm trying to get as much articles out there as possible, but uni's first and foremost at the moment.
Excellent. And yourself, Dan, like you say, hit the 1,000 subscribers there a few weeks ago. Absolutely amazing. The channel, absolutely fantastic. The vlogs that you do as well. Daft question, but are you out the weekend, and who you going to vlog at the weekend?
I'm doing the West Auckland against Newcastle Benfield game tomorrow night. Probably a bit of a dead rubber, but I always enjoy a trip to West Auckland's ground. It's always a nice little night out, and it's Northern League football. Like you never really get teams that are on the beach as such. I remember a few years ago, I went to what was meant to be a dead rubber in Division 2 between Northallerton and Willington. It turned out to be one of the best games I went to that season. So fingers crossed. I think obviously Friday night games are always like feel like a little bit more special. Like you obviously get like the crowds on evidence seem to go up on a Friday. So of course Saturday there might be some game on in Gateshead or something. I don't think it's got really that much importance. I don't think there's any sort of major, like, I don't think there's any sort of prize to play at any major stadiums at stake or anything like that.
No, hopefully, honestly, fingers crossed. I would love to see them do it and get down there as well. But lads, honestly, I absolutely love your work, and I'm over the moon that you've both been on. I know we've got a couple of more shows coming next month, so we'll give you a message as well. But thank you very much for coming on the show tonight as well, and everyone that's been watching, really appreciate it as well.
Cheers, James.
Cheers, Randy.
And Sunday, we've got Warren Byrne, half ace, just about a bit of the Newcastle match, get back and straight on for another live show. Warren Byrne obviously talking about his time in the game and his spell at South Shields, and obviously that goal against Towler got him on Saturday as well, and winning £50,000 for South Shields Football Club. So lots of stories to talk about there as well. But again, thank you so much for everyone that's joined us tonight as well. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button as well, and we'll catch you on the next show.